Welcome to a journey through time where history isn't just a memory, but a vivid landscape of events and emotions waiting to be explored anew. You are standing at the edge of a vast green curtain, where vines drip from towering trees and howler monkeys echo like jungle gods. The humidity clings to your skin thick as soup, and beneath your feet the earth pulses with a story long buried but never truly forgotten. This is the land of the Maya where ancient footsteps still seem to linger just beyond view, and every rustle in the underbrush might be a whisper from centuries past. You've come unarmed into a world where obsidian glints sharper than steel, where gods demand offerings in exchange for sunlight, and where your knowledge of European history won't help you one bit. You probably won't survive this civilization, not because it's cruel, but because it's complex alien and older than nearly everything you were taught in school. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And while you're at it, post your location and local time. I love seeing where in the world you're tuning in from. Wherever you are, I hope tonight brings you rest, comfort, and maybe a curious dream or two. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. You hear the first sounds of stone tools tapping rhythmically in the pre-classic lowlands around 2000 BCE, when the ancestors of the Maya begin to shift from wandering to settling. They haven't yet built pyramids or invented their exquisite calendar systems. For now, they are growing maize and living in small thatched homes nestled between rivers and forest. But even now, you can tell this isn't some sleepy farming culture. The pace of life here is tuned to the cycles of stars and rain clouds. Everything feels intentional. By 1500 BCE, these early Maya communities start to cluster around ceremonial spaces. You watch as someone erects a stela, just a simple standing stone, but already charged with meaning. Soon, modest platforms rise beside it. Some are carved, others merely shaped earth. Around them, small plazas form. These aren't towns, yet more like whispers of what will become cities. But they hint at what's coming: hierarchy ceremony and a need to impress neighbors. The lowlands, especially what we now call the Petén region of Guatemala, are where much of this starts. The soils here aren't rich, and there's no mighty river like the Nile or Tigris, but the Maya work with what they have. They divert rainfall into reservoirs and build raised fields in swampy areas. You pause beside a canal, barefoot children are chasing frogs along its muddy edge, and realize this isn't just clever engineering. It's survival scaled to sacred rhythm. A little further north in the Yucatan, the terrain is dry, riddled with sinkholes called cenotes. These aren't just water sources, they're portals to the underworld. You step carefully along the lip of one, peering into the dark, cool depths. A priest leans over, murmuring to a jade figurine before slipping it into the water. A girl watches from behind a tree, her face unreadable. She might be 5, or she might be a goddess in disguise. It's hard to tell around here. You hear the crackle of a fire. A pot of tamales steams, and someone passes you a cup of atole, warm, thick, sweetened with honey. The woman who made it smiles, revealing jade inlays in her teeth. Yes, dental decoration was a thing. The elite Maya drilled tiny holes into their teeth and fitted them with jade turquoise or even obsidian chips. Historians still argue whether it was more about status beauty or spiritual protection, but it definitely made dental hygiene a full-time affair. There's a kind of magic in how fast these early settlements blossom. By 1000 BCE, a site like Nakbe in the Patin is already showing signs of what's to come: monumental platforms, paved causeways, sculpted art. and soon after that the city of El Mirador will begin to rise. You can barely see it now, just a slight rise beyond the tree line, but that hump will one day become La Danta, one of the largest pyramids ever built in the ancient world. You wouldn't guess it from the sleepy frogs and fireflies tonight. Around the fires, stories are beginning to circulate. You hear fragments of hero twins who outwit the gods of death of maze men formed from dough and breath of the world, being created and destroyed in cycles. These myths will one day form the papal vu, but for now they are just tales, whispered under stars, echoing with owl hoots and the hum of mosquitoes. One fringe theory you hear while eavesdropping involves a trader from the coast insisting he saw a group of strange men arrive on canoes with noses like jaguars and eyes that glowed red. Most people call him sun mad, but a few seem unsettled. Stories like this, possibly myth, possibly memory, float around ancient cultures like dandelion fluff. Nobody can quite grasp them, and yet they stick. You wake to the sound of drums gentle and hollow. The village is stirring. Children chase after dogs. Someone is grinding maize on a metate, and a smoke plume curls above a stone altar. Something is happening. A ritual. A gathering. You're not sure, but everyone is moving with purpose. You follow. There is no king, yet no empire. Just lineages, clans, and sacred spaces. But make no mistake, you're standing at the roots of something that will outlive empires. The forest around you hums with energy, with memory. And just beyond the canopy, the future Maya world is gathering its strength. You don't remember falling asleep, but the jungle around you has changed. The sun is brighter now, casting crisp shadows across organized rows of maize and cacao trees. Instead of scattered hamlets, you now walk among settled clusters of homes, each built from wattle and daub, topped with thick palm thatch. A few buildings even stand on raised platforms. Chickens cluck underfoot. Dogs bark. The scent of burning copal drifts on the breeze. You've entered the era when villages are no longer just places to sleep. They're becoming complex communities. The Maya are building towns, not the kind with highways and billboards, but cities in the making, each one with its own rules, gods, and alliances. By around 750 BCE, these villages are blossoming into regional power centers, and you can feel the competitive energy brewing. If you stand on a hilltop and squint, you'll notice pyramids rising in the distance like stone mountains, cerros, Lamanai, Wasaktun. You don't need to memorize every name, but they're sprouting like mushrooms after rain. Each one lays claim to a stretch of jungle, a water source, and some sacred site. City-states are forming independent political entities with their own rulers, calendars, and temples. And yes, they all think they're the center of the world. You walk through the main plaza of one such city where artisans chip away at limestone stelae. One is carving a ruler's face, long nose, prominent lips adorned in feathers. Another sculptor is finishing a relief of a woman holding a bowl of blood with a snake curling from it. You try not to stare. Ritual bloodletting is on the rise. Elite women draw thorny ropes through their tongues to communicate with gods. It's not for the squeamish. Nearby, a young noble sharpens a stingray spine humming a chant. He's preparing for his coming-of-age ceremony. Blood, after all, is currency. It opens divine doors. You watch him wince as he practices dragging the spine across his earlobe, leaving a faint red line. You suddenly appreciate your modern cotton swabs. What's fascinating here is that power isn't just about war or wealth. It's about managing time itself. You step inside a stone chamber where a calendar priest is arranging bundles of sticks and shell markers. He's tracking the Tzolk'in 260-day ritual cycle, and the Hob 365-day solar cycle, both humming in tandem like ancient gears. One miscalculation in a harvest festival could fall on a bad omen day, and that could spell disaster. The cities themselves reflect this cosmic harmony. You notice how pyramids align with the solstices? Doorways frame sunrise on specific feast days. Historians still argue whether these alignments were purely symbolic or used to fine-tune rituals, but you can feel the mathematical precision in every step you take. Trade is booming now. You walk with a caravan of merchants carrying obsidian from highland Guatemala jade, from the Motagua Valley salt from the Yucatan, and cacao beans used as both drink and currency. One merchant offers you a steaming cup of frothy chocolate, spiced with chili. It's bitter and rich, and yes, it wakes you up better than coffee. Another hands you a small packet of dried fish wrapped in bark cloth. A third offers a carved monkey figurine and insists it protects travelers. You don't argue. You arrive at a riverside market where vendors sit under canopies of woven palm. Women in embroidered hooples sell tomatoes, chili peppers, and honeycombs. Children dart between stalls, sneaking bits of tamale. A young girl proudly shows off her pet turkey, which you suspect is actually dinner. The city hums like a living organism. Everyone plays a role. You spot a stranger in the crowd. Light-skinned, small round eyes wearing an elaborate headdress made of parrot feathers and jaguar pelts. He's not Maya, a visitor from the Olmec heartland. Perhaps that mysterious Gulf Coast culture still lingers in Maya memory like an older sibling who left home. Some say the Olmecs taught the Maya writing. Others insist the Maya invented everything themselves. The truth might be somewhere in between, or nowhere near either. A quirky bit of trivia you overhear: one local priest claims his city was founded by a talking crocodile who emerged from the cenote during a lunar eclipse. Apparently, the creature taught them how to make tortillas. You glance at the man. He's deadly serious. Maybe don't laugh. And then there's the politics. You notice two messengers arriving on foot, panting their cloaks, dusted with travel grime. One carries a painted scroll bearing glyphs and stylized jaguar tracks. An invitation, perhaps, or a threat. City-states send emissaries to one another sometimes to arrange marriages or trade, sometimes to spy or sow unrest. You get the sense these aren't passive settlements. They're chessboards, every move calculated. You spend a few nights here. The sounds of frogs and flutes mingle under the stars. Someone plays a shell trumpet in the distance. A young couple dances beside a fire, their shadows flickering against a temple wall. You lie back on a stone bench looking up at the Milky Way, what the Maya call the White Road. They believe it's the path of the souls, a river of light stretching to Xibalba, the underworld. And speaking of underworlds, someone casually mentions that the neighboring city was recently attacked after failing to send tribute. The priest king had refused to recognize a new ruler's succession. One thing led to another. Now their pyramid has scorch marks, and its stelae have been defaced. It happens. Still, life here isn't all blood and politics. There's music, art, astronomy, food, and laughter. A little boy teaches you how to catch grasshoppers by hand. His grandmother shows you how to cook them with lime and chili. It's a crunchy snack and surprisingly addictive. The days blur into one another as you move between city-states, each with its own dialect, customs, and deities. One favors a bat god with razor wings. Another worships a centipede spirit said to live inside stone walls. You marvel at how diverse the Maya world already is, and how fiercely proud each city remains of its own identity. You leave the city on foot, guided by a trader named Ixbalam. She walks barefoot and carries everything she owns in a sling on her back, including a puppy and a small painted turtle. As you pass through dense jungle paths and bright clearings, she points out trees that bleed red sap vines that taste like cucumber and ants you really don't want to step on. You pause on a ridge and look back. The city you just left gleams with limestone in the distance, its temples like teeth on the horizon. You realize you've just watched villages become city-states, and city-states start dreaming of greatness. You feel the shift in atmosphere before you even open your eyes. A hush has fallen across the landscape like the jungle itself is holding its breath. The air is heavy not with silence but with ceremony. You hear the rhythmic thok-thok of wooden drums, the high keening of conch shell trumpets, and the low murmur of prayer. You're in a city now, not just any city, but one that pulses with the lifeblood of religion, sacrifice, and timekeeping. It's hard to say exactly which city. It could be Kopan or Calakmul or even Palenque. The details shift around you like mist. What matters is the feeling, that electric pull that tells you you're somewhere sacred. At the center of the plaza stands a towering pyramid, its steps steep and forbidding. Priests move along its levels like fireflies in embroidered robes, each carrying something, bundles of copal-painted gourds or, more ominously, flint knives. You feel the eyes of stone gods on you from every direction. They are not gentle. This is where Maya religion takes shape, not in whispered myths around a fire, but in full technicolor ritual. The gods demand attention and blood, especially blood. A crowd has gathered. You find yourself drawn forward with them, pressed into the warm bodies of farmers, traders, warriors, and scribes. A nobleman stands at the altar above, arms raised to the sky. Two priests flank him, each holding a bowl. From the noble's outstretched hand dangles a rope, thorny, wet, and dark with blood. He has drawn it through his tongue, offering his pain to summon visions. The crowd is silent. Even the children watch with wide eyes. It's not a punishment, it's a privilege. To bleed for the gods is to bridge the mortal and divine, especially when it comes to royal blood. The gods, it seems, are picky donors. You're pulled toward a nearby mural. It shows the Maya pantheon in full splendor. Itzamna the creator, Chak the rain god, Ixchel goddess of childbirth and weaving. One figure, skeletal and grinning, dances with a severed head in its hand. Others emerge from turtle shells or serpent mouths. It's as if mythology itself spilled from dreams and hardened into plaster. Beneath the mural, a small altar holds a burned offering corn cacao. Beans, a tiny carved jaguar. The scent of it, all earthy sweet and a little acrid, clings to your hair. You step back a little, dazed. Now you're guided into a dimly lit chamber deep inside the pyramid, where scribes sit hunched over bark paper codices. Their fingers are stained with pigments. Their brushstrokes are impossibly precise. One glyph looks like a rabbit holding a fish. Another is a skull fused with a hummingbird. Every symbol is a story, a number, or name. Possibly all three. You don't know how they keep it straight. What you do learn is that the Maya didn't just record history, they encoded it. Each king's accession date, each battle, each eclipse, they were meticulously mapped using their long count calendar system, a base 20 math marvel that counted not just days and years, but whole cosmic ages. And yes, they invented 0 centuries before Europeans ever dreamed of it. It looked like a shell, small, simple, and quietly world-changing. The priest beside you gestures to a date inscribed on a stela outside. It's not today, not even this decade. It refers to an event that happened 1,000 years ago, or perhaps 1,000 years yet to come. Time here isn't linear. It's a wheel. Each turn brings echoes of the last. You wander outside just as a procession begins. Dancers with feathered headdresses and jaguar pelts move in slow circles. A woman walks at the center with her arms outstretched. She's balanced a bowl on her head. Inside it, a beating heart. You're not sure if it's real or symbolic. Either way, no one around you looks surprised. And yet, for all the intensity, there's beauty. Children scamper through the plaza. A flute plays softly. The limestone of the temple glows pink in the late afternoon sun. You see an old man sitting quietly beside a sacred ceiba tree, the trunk wrapped in red thread. He's whispering to it, not praying exactly, more like chatting with an old friend. The Maya believe these trees connect the heavens, earth, and underworld. The tree doesn't respond, but maybe it doesn't have to. Here's a fringe belief you overhear while sipping maize beer with a local potter, that the gods ride on the backs of iguanas, and that the moon was once stolen by a jealous monkey who turned it into cheese. No one can tell if he's serious. Even he isn't sure. A nearby glyph on a stone bench tells a darker tale. One ruler claimed to be born of a celestial crocodile and crowned during a thunderstorm that lasted 3 days. Another swore he was the reincarnation of a maize god and demanded his subjects eat only white corn in his honor. Scholars still argue whether such claims were actual beliefs or political theater. Then again, the line between religion and propaganda has always been delightfully blurry. As night falls, a ceremony begins to honor the arrival of Venus in the night sky. The Maya tracked the planet's movement with astonishing accuracy. You lie back on a woven mat staring up. A priest chants nearby, his voice low and gravelly. Incense curls into the sky. The stars shimmer and Venus blinks into view like a god's eyelid opening. Someone hands you a bowl of pozole and a woven shawl. You hadn't realized how cool the night air has become. You're told tomorrow will bring another festival, this one to celebrate the planting season. There will be feasting music and maybe even a few staged sacrifices. Symbolic, someone assures you, probably. You rest your head against a carved stone step, feeling the faint vibration of drums echo through your bones. Around you, the city sleeps lightly, always alert for omens. Somewhere in the distance, a jaguar calls out. Not a god this time, just a big cat. Probably. And as you close your eyes, you realize the Maya didn't just worship their gods. They lived alongside them in every cut, chant, and constellation. Their entire world was a conversation with stars, spirits, and stories too big to be written down. Morning arrives not with sunlight, but with smoke. Fragrant tendrils of burning copal drift through the thatched eaves as you rub your eyes and sit up. You're in the scribes' quarter now, a quieter part of the city tucked behind the great temples. It smells of ink and old bark paper, of charcoal damp stone, and the faint sweet rot of crushed berries used to make pigment. This is the beating heart of Maya literacy. And you, lucky wanderer, have stumbled into the birthplace of one of the world's most sophisticated ancient writing systems. At first glance, the glyphs are impossible to decipher, blocks filled with loops, eyes, beaks, and curling tails. But as the day unfolds, you begin to see the order behind the beauty. Maya script is logosyllabic, meaning it combines signs for whole words with signs for syllables. You see a turtle paired with a drum, and a scribe murmurs "Akai Pak," scratching it into his codex with a delicate brush. Another draws a fish with a hand-shaped tongue. The meanings shift with context, and your head starts to throb just thinking about it. One fact is clear: these scribes aren't just copying things down, they're crafting power. Every codex stela and painted voice is a layered document of cosmology, history, and royal PR. The kings here don't just rule, they rewrite the stars to make sure they were meant to rule. History is flexible when you hold the pen. A fringe theory you overhear from a particularly animated apprentice is that the writing system was taught to the Maya by a mythical jaguar god who coughed up the first codex after swallowing too many cacao beans. This jaguar apparently had indigestion for a week. You're not sure if the apprentice is serious, but he's drawing it on a wall, so the story may be entering canon, whether anyone likes it or not. Inside the script chamber, dozens of codices are laid out to dry. You're warned not to sneeze on them. The paper is made from the inner bark of the ficus tree pounded flat and coated with lime paste to make it smooth. On this pale surface, the scribes paint stories, using natural pigments reds from hematite blues from crushed indigo and clay blacks from charcoal or soot. The blues in particular, you're told, are sacred, reserved for depictions of gods and the sacrificial dead. You lean over a page that depicts two men playing a ball game, one with a jaguar mask, the other with skeletal limbs. In the caption, you catch part of a phrase when time folded and the underworld cheered. It's poetic. It's unnerving. It's probably a Tuesday around here. The scribes aren't working for fun. They serve the Ajah or ruler who wants his lineage remembered for eternity. You're shown a large stela outside the palace courtyard where his entire ancestry is listed, including a divine grandmother who once gave birth to a hummingbird. Historians still argue whether this is metaphor divine myth, or something the Maya actually believed in literal terms. The Maya didn't always draw a line between history and cosmology, both were part of the same stone-carved sentence. At night, by torchlight, scribes read aloud from codices to small audiences, other nobles' priests, maybe even the Ajah himself. It's part performance, part education. A young boy sits beside you and whispers every word as it's read, wide-eyed, mouthing along, like it's his favorite bedtime story. He says he wants to be a scribe one day. Then he adds, or a ball player if I grow tall. That brings you to another curiosity, the number of animal references in the glyphs. Bats, jaguars, snakes, frogs, even turkeys show up constantly. One scribe tells you that animals weren't just metaphors, they were spirits, teachers, ancestors. He proudly shows you his spirit companion, a very fat lizard named Yakskin. It blinks slowly, unimpressed. You're told the lizard is particularly wise. In one room, you spot an unfinished codex. The scribe who started it vanished after claiming he received nightly visits from a writing wind that whispered stories he didn't recognize. He panicked, fled the city, and left behind a half-finished tale of a giant bee that rides a comet. No one's quite sure what to make of it. A few chuckle, a few frown and glance nervously at the rafters. Outside, you find another form of storytelling on ceramics. Potters etch glyphs and scenes into drinking vessels, plates, and even whistles. One cup you're handed features a dancing skeleton with a speech bubble that reads something like, "This drink ends marriages." You decline a refill just in case. Despite the beauty, there's tension here. You overhear that a neighboring city has started using a simplified writing system, fewer glyphs, more pictures. Some call it innovation, others call it blasphemy. A visiting scholar spits on the ground and says it's the beginning of the end. You wonder if someday people will say the same about emojis? As you walk through the market that evening, you notice more and more written signs. Painted shells bear blessings. Weaving looms are marked with owner glyphs. Even tamale wrappers have little symbols indicating ingredients and origin. Literacy isn't just elite anymore, it's trickling into daily life. Slowly but surely, one of the oldest scribes invites you to his home. He's blind now, but his fingers trace the outlines of glyphs carved into the walls of his house. He recites the stories by heart voice soft as rustling leaves. He tells you about a bat god who guarded the moon, a crocodile spirit who swallowed dreams, and a princess who vanished into the sky on the night of a blue eclipse. You don't speak, just listen. As the night deepens, you realize that to the Maya writing was more than words on paper. It was breath made visible, a way to trap time in symbols. To resurrect the past at will, you step outside and look at the stars. They seem quieter now, as if listening. You close your eyes beside the fire heart full of symbols, tongue heavy with unspoken names. Somewhere nearby, Yakskin the lizard yawns. You suspect he knows more than he lets on. You're standing at the edge of a long stone court, flanked by sloping walls that angle sharply upward on both sides. At the top of each slope is a carved stone ring mounted high enough that even the tallest warriors would need to leap with impossible grace to reach it. The surface of the court is scuffed with years of bare feet, rain, and ritual. The smell in the air is somewhere between incense and sweat. Welcome to the Maya ball game. Part sport, part sacred drama, part cosmic metaphor. There are spectators all around you now, murmuring with anticipation. Children sit cross-legged on the steps, chewing roasted maize and pointing excitedly. Nobles fan themselves under feathered canopies. A priest mutters a chant beside you, his eyes half-lidded, as if already communing with the gods. And at the far end of the court, the players emerge. They're not dressed like modern athletes. These ball players wear heavy leather padding on their hips, knees, and elbows. Some wear animal masks, jaguar, parrot, toad, and others paint their faces with blue and red stripes. The ball, when it's brought out, is heavier than you expect. Solid rubber. It thuds against the ground with a weight that echoes all the way to your ribs. The rules hard to pin down. Different cities played different versions, but the basics are this. You can't use your hands or feet, only your hips, shoulders, knees. The goal might be to hit the ball through one of those stone rings, or maybe just to keep it in play as long as possible. Or perhaps the game's real goal is entirely invisible, to reenact a battle between gods, or appease the underworld, or ensure rain next season. Nobody seems quite sure. Historians still argue whether the game was mainly a religious ceremony, a political spectacle, or a bit of both, wrapped in the scent of popcorn and human tension. The match begins, and it's mesmerizing. The ball rockets from one end of the court to the other, bouncing high, skimming low, ricocheting off pads and thighs and stomachs. One player dives and rolls, popping back up with the fluidity of a jaguar. Another slams the ball with his hip so hard it sends a nearby bird fluttering in surprise. You flinch more than once, convinced the ball is coming for your face. But it's not just athleticism. Every movement is stylized, almost choreographed. When the ball hits the ring once improbably during a stunning jump, the crowd erupts, and then falls quiet. A hush spreads. Something has shifted. The priest steps forward. The ball player who scored steps back. You sense the ending coming, not in triumph, but in ritual. He kneels. Two attendants help him remove his mask and chest plate. A drum begins to beat slow and hollow. The priest raises a knife, and here it is, the darker edge of the Maya ball game. In some versions, it's the losing team that's sacrificed. In others, the winners are honored with death, offered up as a noble gift to the gods. This time, you can't tell which is happening. The faces in the crowd aren't celebrating or mourning. They're simply reverent. It doesn't always end this way. In many cases, the game was purely ceremonial or political, used to settle disputes without warfare. But this match was different. This match mattered. You step back, heart pounding, unsure whether to clap or cry. Afterwards, you're led through the court past massive stone carvings showing previous games. One panel shows a decapitated player with serpents erupting from his neck instead of blood. Another shows the hero twins from the Popol Vuh, the mythic siblings who outwitted the Lords of Death by winning a ball game in the underworld. You're told their story again by a young scribe who insists the twins still walk among the living, disguised perhaps as traveling storytellers. You glance around, suddenly suspicious of a particularly smug iguana nearby. The symbolism runs deep. The ball represents the sun, the court is the universe, and the players, they are the forces of life and death locked in endless motion. You're told that a game played during an eclipse could change the fate of an entire city. That when Venus appeared over the western horizon, a game played at dusk could open the gates of Xibalba, the Maya underworld. A quirky detail, one court in Chichen Itza, far to the north, has whispering walls. You stand at one end and whisper, and your words carry clearly to the other end, 135 meters away. No one knows if this was intentional acoustics or divine coincidence, but you try it anyway. Hello, you whisper. A beat later, the word returns, a little distorted, a little deeper, almost like the gods are whispering back. Later, you meet a retired ball player. His limbs gnarled, his nose broken 3 times, his teeth replaced with turquoise. He chuckles as he lifts his shirt to show you a scar shaped like a crescent moon. Caught the ball wrong, he says. Then he adds, or maybe right. You ask him whether he ever won. He laughs again. You don't win the ball game, he says. You survive it, or you don't. The night closes in again, and the court is silent now. You lie down near its edge, head resting on a carved bench that once held royalty. Fireflies blink lazily above you. Somewhere in the trees, owls call to each other in their own echo of the game's chant. You close your eyes and imagine the rubber ball soaring across the stars, kicked between constellations passed from god to god. The sound of its bounce perhaps is thunder, the flash of its fall lightning, and when you dream tonight you'll be playing too, leaping, twisting, spinning through a cosmic arena cheered on by ghosts and gods alike. The jungle closes in again, but this time it makes room for stone. Massive slabs rise from the earth like forgotten teeth, each carved with the faces of gods and kings, their eyes wide and unblinking as if surprised to still exist. You are standing at the heart of Tikal, one of the great Maya superpowers. And unlike the quiet court you just left, this city is loud, not with noise, but with sheer presence. Even the trees seem to bend away from the temples, as if acknowledging something older and grander than themselves. Tikal doesn't just rise from the jungle, it erupts. 5 towering pyramids stab into the sky, their steep steps casting long shadows over the plazas below. You climb one, cautiously winded before you're halfway. There are no handrails here, no modern concessions. Just centuries of smooth limestone worn by the souls of priests and kings and possibly a few panicked tourists. At the top you look out. Jungle stretches in every direction, a green ocean. But here, high above the canopy, the city feels like a floating island. And at its peak around the 7th century CE Tikal was exactly that, an empire unto itself, ruled by dynasties who carved their legacy into stone and expected it to echo forever. You sit at the foot of temple also called the Temple of the Great Jaguar and listen to a local elder whisper the names of rulers past. Yaks Abe Suk, Chak Tok Ichak, Jasao Chan Kawil. Some names stretch across monuments like thunderclouds. Others are barely legible, eroded by time or purposefully defaced. The latter, you're told, is no accident. In the Maya world, erasing someone's name is like deleting them from history worse than death. A form of cosmic unpublishing. The political drama here is as tangled as the jungle vines. You learn that Tikal wasn't just building temples, it was also building enemies. The biggest Kalakmul, a rival city to the north, with whom Tikal would fight a century-spanning feud that makes modern politics look like a playground slap fight. At one point, Kalakmul even wins. They crush Tikal in a brutal campaign, seize control, and leave the city in stunned silence for over a century. Tikal doesn't respond immediately. It bides its time. Then around 695 CE under Jasau Chankawil, it strikes back with spectacular force routing Kalakmul's army and reclaiming its place as top jungle dog. The temples built afterward practically gloat in limestone. You pass a stone panel showing the victory a king, standing triumphantly, his enemy groveling at his feet. But here's the odd bit. The defeated king is shown not just kneeling, but tiny, like a toddler. Some scholars say it's metaphor. Others think the scale was meant to humiliate. Still others think maybe the artist just got lazy. Nobody agrees. While war shaped its destiny, Tikal wasn't only a battlefield, it was also a cultural beacon. You follow a group of artisans to a workshop filled with jade and obsidian, where jewelry is shaped into teeth, ears, and necklaces that glitter like rainforest dew. A young woman carves a tiny monkey pendant while humming a tune about a trickster spirit who once stole the sun. She hands you a nearly finished piece and says, "He hides in the trees still. Watch for him." In another plaza, astronomer priests track celestial bodies from observatories disguised as temples. One adjusts a shell-shaped lens and shows you a drawing. Venus will rise just before dawn tomorrow. You nod, pretending you understand, while secretly marveling that these people charted the skies with such precision, all without telescopes or apps. One observatory is rumored to have been built so that sunlight would shine directly on the king's birthglyph every spring equinox. Standing there, you can almost believe it. The shaft of light is so perfectly aimed that you expect it to unlock a hidden chamber or summon a jaguar. In the outskirts of the city, far from the bustling central plaza, you meet a man who claims to be descended from one of Tikal's last royal cooks. He shows you a flat stone slab used for grinding cacao beans and spices. "We made the gods drink chocolate before battle," he says with a wink. "It gave them courage. You take a sip. It tastes like fire and earth and bitterness and time." A fringe tidbit you hear from a passing storyteller that one of Tikal's rulers once tried to declare war on the moon after a particularly bad harvest. No one remembers if he succeeded, but the storyteller swears that for 3 nights, the moon refused to rise out of spite. Even in its glory, Tikal is aware of its own impermanence. You see it in the repairs made to older buildings, the murals that paint over earlier versions of events. The Maya weren't delusional. They knew cities fall, kings die, stars shift. That's why they wrote everything down, not just victories, but losses. Not just myths, but market lists. You're led to a hidden stairwell behind Temple Minoan. It descends into darkness, then opens into a cool, echoing chamber beneath the temple, one of the royal tombs. You're told this is where Jasau Chan Ka'awil was laid to rest, surrounded by jade masks, stingray spines, and offerings to ease his journey to Xibalba. No gold here. The Maya preferred things that mattered: symbols, stories, sacred mathematics. There's a quiet reverence to the air. Even now, even underground, the sense of order remains. Glyphs line the walls, spelling out passages about the cosmos, about sacrifice, about the weaving of time. You run your fingers across one that reads something close to, "He passed through the jaws of the earth to rise again." It could be poetry, or calendar note, or both. Back above ground, the sun is sinking. You sit beneath a massive ceiba tree at the edge of the Grand Plaza, where monkeys chatter above and cicadas hum like tuning forks. Tikal breathes around you, not ruins, not relics, but a city alive with memory. Every stone, every carving, every shadow belongs to someone who once believed that time itself could be counted, named, and worn like a crown. You watch the last light slant across Temple Laman, and it feels less like sunset and more like an eyelid closing. You wake with numbers dancing across your vision circles and bars and shells arranged in orderly stacks. The jungle dawn is cool, but your thoughts are burning with calculation. The Maya world may have looked like stone and jungle blood and smoke, but at its core it thinks in numbers. Long before calculators, before abacuses, even the Maya had their own intricate way of seeing time, and it's beautiful. Your guide today is an old astronomer priest who greets you with a grin, missing two teeth but filled with mischief. He beckons you into a quiet study at the edge of a temple complex, its walls covered in faded murals of stars, jaguars, serpents, and math. This, he says, is where the sky is counted. The Maya use a vigesimal base 20 number system. Fingers and toes, it makes more sense than you'd expect. A single dot means 1, a bar equals 5. Stack them vertically, and suddenly you're performing calculations with astonishing elegance. 0. Oh, they had that too. Represented as a stylized shell, it's soft and quiet yet revolutionary. A mathematical whisper that would echo across civilizations. Historians still argue whether the Maya independently invented 0 or adapted it from elsewhere in Mesoamerica. Either way, they were among the first in human history to not just conceive of nothing, but to count with it. You try writing a few numbers. The scribe beside you nods encouragingly as you scribble what you hope says 42, though you may have accidentally declared a corn holiday instead. You're handed a codex and your eyes blur as you take in page after page of calendar calculations. The Sulcan 260 sacred days, cycling through names like Ik-Kanil and Ajal. The Hab, a 365-day solar year with 18 months of 20 days plus a 5-day unlucky period, at the end called Wayeb. It's all interwoven like gears in a cosmic clock. But there's more: the long count. This is how the Maya track time over centuries, even millennia. Instead of years, they count Baktuns 144,000 days, Katuns 7 to 200 days, and tons, Winals and Kines in intricate layers. The current world, they believe, began on a date we would call August 11th, 3114 BCE. Before that, a previous world. And before that one, who knows? The universe is cyclical here. It dies, it resets, it breathes again. One priest shows you a stela carved with a date so far in the past it stretches the imagination. Another lists events thousands of years in the future, long after the city it stood in was abandoned. Time isn't a river, he says with a wink. It's a serpent biting its tail. You join a group watching Venus rise just before dawn. For the Maya, Venus wasn't just a planet, it was a god and omen, a celestial warrior. Battles were planned according to its cycle. If Venus rose in the east before sunrise, it might signal danger or conquest. Some kings delayed wars until Venus gave the all clear. Others ignored the signs and didn't last long. A fringe belief you hear from a young novice is that the gods live in numbers. Each calculation, he insists, is a doorway to a different part of the sky. When you get a sum wrong, it's not just math, it's sacrilege. He once got smacked with a maize cob for misplacing a dot in a ritual count. You ask someone how commoners relate to these complex systems. Most aren't scribes or astronomers after all. The answer is both practical and poetic. Farmers plant according to the calendar. Festivals follow celestial cycles. Even marriages and births are timed to avoid unlucky days. One weaver tells you she won't start a new pattern until the day of Ben, a symbol of strength and pathways. Bad threads come from bad days, she says, snipping at the air. You visit a school where children recite calendar sequences like multiplication tables. One boy proudly tells you he was born on 9 Ajah. His friend scoffs and says, "Yeah, well, I was born on 13 Con, which means I'm smarter." A minor argument erupts until the teacher bangs a turtle shell and declares both of them full of hot air. What amazes you most is how integrated all this is. Math, myth, astronomy, ritual, it's one system. When the priest calculates an eclipse, he's not just doing science. He's preparing for a spiritual event. When a builder aligns a temple, he's aligning souls. You realize there's no word here for secular. Every calculation is sacred. There's even gossip about a recent celestial error made by a high-ranking priest in a nearby city. Apparently, he predicted a lunar eclipse that never arrived. Some blame clouds. Others whisper that he misread the Venus cycle. He's currently on a quiet retreat. Perhaps voluntary, perhaps not. He's meditating, one scribe says. With a shovel, you decide not to ask further. At midday, you're invited to a feast in honor of a particularly auspicious date, 13.0 March being or the end of one great cycle. There are sweet tamales, cacao drinks, dancing, and a play about the hero twins defeating the lords of Sibalba by tricking them into miscounting their days. Everyone laughs. No one wants to end up like those bumbling gods. Later, you lie under the stars again, this time with a flat piece of bark in your lap and a brush in your hand. You try writing today's date in long count notation. It looks absurd, beautiful, maybe even profound. A line of dots, a few bars, a shell for 0. Time in the Maya world is measured not just to know the future, but to speak to it. Each day has a personality. Each number hums with meaning. And if you listen closely, you might hear it talking back. A breeze stirs the fire beside you. The old priest snores, gently hugging a rolled-up codex like a child with a blanket. The stars shimmer overhead, some forming patterns. You recognize, others you don't. But one thing is certain, the Maya didn't just count the days. They gave them names, meaning, and memory. And somewhere in those numbers you suspect is a little piece of your own story too. You're not alone on the jungle road. Today you travel with merchants, emissaries, bodyguards, and a pair of rather disgruntled turkeys tied to a pole. The road is white limestone wide and strangely straight, stretching ahead like a ribbon across the forest floor. These are Sak Biab, the sacred white roads, raised and paved, sometimes running for dozens of kilometers. They don't just connect cities, they connect ideas, trade, diplomacy, and sometimes war. And war is in the air today. Not in the shouting, clashing swords kind of way, but in the way people glance sideways when the word Kalakmul is mentioned. Tikal and Kalakmul, remember those two. They're still glaring at each other across the jungle like two gods in a staring contest that spans centuries. But they're not the only players on the board. You arrive at a meeting place, an open plaza between two allied cities, where messengers meet under a carved canopy supported by stone pillars, shaped like cornstalks and jaguar legs. The envoys wear rich cloaks and speak in careful tones. Beneath the diplomacy, you feel at attention made of cacao beans, trade routes, and family trees with suspiciously overlapping branches. The Maya city-states are independent. Each has its own ruler laws, even dialect. But they weave a delicate spider web of alliances and rivalries sealed with marriage pacts and shattered by betrayal. It's not unlike modern politics, just with more feathers and fewer microphones. You meet a noblewoman from Naranjo, poised and veiled in fine cotton. She's here to discuss a potential marriage alliance. The deal. Her cousin marries the son of a rival king, sealing trade access to a prized salt source. But she whispers, "We'll see if the omens are good." She doesn't just mean mood or weather, she means celestial omens. Bones thrown on mats and dreams of jaguar spirits. Later, she invites you to sit with her retinue. As night falls, they retell old diplomatic blunders. One story involves a messenger who mispronounced a ruler's name during a feast and accidentally insulted the man's dead grandmother. The result, a 3-year embargo. One temple burned down, and oddly a goat named after the poor messenger as a joke. Among the nobility, information is currency. So are spies. You learn of sculptors who smuggle coded messages into stela carvings, weavers who stitch alliance gossip into tunics, even potters who paint stories into bowls that only certain nobles know how to read. Historians still argue whether these were deliberate covert tactics or just artistic coincidence. But when you sip chocolate from a cup covered in battle glyphs and names that don't belong to this city, you start to suspect nothing here is accidental. And beneath all of this trade and intrigue is a sacred rhythm rooted in the ceiba tree. The Maya world centers around this mighty trunk branches reaching to the heavens roots, diving into Cibalba, the underworld. You're led to a courtyard where 3 such trees grow encircled by offerings. Corn feathers, carved jade, and a curious object, a child's toy bird lovingly placed. The tree remembers your guide murmurs. So we remind it. A fringe belief you overhear involves an alliance sealed, not with marriage, but with shared dreams. 2 rulers, it said, visited each other in their sleep over 13 consecutive nights. They exchanged secrets, laughed, even hunted deer together in a dream forest. When they awoke, they signed a treaty immediately. Some call it myth. Others insist the dream scrolls still exist, hidden deep beneath an abandoned pyramid. Cacao beans change hands everywhere you go. They aren't just delicious, they're currency. A small bag of them can buy a cloak, a tamale feast, or a story you probably shouldn't repeat near Calakmul agents. One merchant shows you a counterfeit cacao bean made of wax and sand. It even smells right. People die over these, he says, and offers you a bite. You decline. In a smoky market beneath a wide plaza canopy, you watch deals being made. Salt obsidian blades, red pigment jaguar pelts. A woman sharpens stingray spines while haggling over a bundle of parrot feathers. Children run by shouting about the next city festival, tossing dried gourds at each other like balls. It's all so alive, so vivid, so complicated. And then drums. A messenger runs into the market, panting, her cloak soaked through. She unfurls a scroll marked with the glyph for war. Eyes widen. Whispers ripple. Apparently an alliance between 2 distant cities just collapsed after someone defaced a royal stela. Rumors say Calakmul was involved. Others say it was a rogue prince trying to start a war to prove his worth. You ask which is true. A merchant shrugs. Does it matter? The road shifts again. You follow a diplomat's caravan moving under cover of night torches low to avoid bandits or spies. One of the guards tells you the cities don't always fight openly. Sometimes they play ball, literally. The ball game becomes a proxy battle. Winner takes tribute land or honor. Loser walks home lighter if they walk at all. You arrive at a smaller city that seems quiet, too quiet. The plaza has swept the temples clean, but the people are watching the skies. Bad star, someone mutters. No trading today. You glance upward. Clouds cover everything. You're told it's even worse because now they don't know if the star is bad or not. You decide to hold your questions. As your journey ends, you look back down the white road, your feet dusted with the chalky residue of centuries. The jungle whispers around you, and for a moment it all makes sense. The cities, the whispers, the alliances, sealed with maze and threat. In the Maya world, diplomacy isn't a sidebar, it's the main plot. You don't build an empire by force alone. You do it with flattery, marriage prophecy, and occasionally a really well-placed jaguar metaphor. You step aside as a runner speeds past scroll in hand, bare feet barely touching the ground. Another message, another alliance, another secret carried in a heartbeat. The air smells like wood smoke and corn. Roosters crow in the distance. A dog barks half-heartedly. You stretch, blink, and realize you're not in a palace today, not in a temple, a court, or a stone-carved hall of power. You're waking up in a modest Maya village with a reed mat under you, a thatched roof above you, and the earthy scent of early morning life settling all around. This is where most Maya lived, not as kings or priests, but as farmers, weavers, and quiet miracle workers of daily survival. A woman hands you a bowl of atole, warm, thick, maize-based. You thank her and sip, letting the drink comfort your sleepy brain. The village is already bustling. You hear the scrape of a grinding stone as another woman prepares masa for tortillas. Children chase each other around a courtyard, their faces painted with yesterday's festival dye. Two men carry bundles of firewood, chatting in low tones about the coming rains. You've joined the household for the day, and everyone has a role. Your host family is friendly but busy. They're preparing for market day. First task, tend the milpa. A milpa isn't just a field, it's a brilliantly engineered polyculture plot where maize grows alongside beans and squash. The beans climb the corn stalks. The squash spreads across the soil, locking in moisture. It's low-tech genius, and it feeds the heart of Maya civilization. You walk the perimeter of the field, helping to scatter ash between rows. One man jokes that it keeps away the underworld ants. Another mutters that if you forget the correct offering to the maize spirit, she won't grow tall this year. You're pretty sure he's only half joking. By midday, it's hot. You rest under a tree while the family eats tamales wrapped in leaves with chili sauce so spicy it feels like a solar flare behind your teeth. You ask the eldest son how he knows when to plant. He shrugs. The stars, the birds, my grandmother's knees. There's wisdom here that doesn't come from temples or books. The Maya farmer reads signs in clouds, bird migrations, and the way the wind changes. A quirk you notice, no one seems to count days precisely, but everyone knows exactly when they are. Market day means travel. You walk with the family and their goods, turkeys, pottery cloth, along a path that winds through trees and over streams. Others join along the way. You meet a beekeeper carrying clay hives filled with stingless bees beloved for their gentle honey. One woman leads a deer on a leash. Another balances a basket of red dye on her head, warning everyone not to spill a drop unless they want to look like a cursed cardinal for a week. The market itself is a sensory explosion. Stalls made from woven mats line the plaza. The smell of roasting meat, honey cakes, and burning incense mixes with laughter and the rhythmic chant of vendors calling out prices. You spot cacao beans changing hands faster than coins. One man is trading a carved flute for 2 obsidian blades and a chicken. The chicken doesn't look thrilled. Everywhere color. Textiles patterned with zigzags and lightning bolts. Painted pots with grinning bat faces. Children with red and blue streaks in their hair chasing after woven toys that squeak. You marvel at how nothing is wasted. Avocado pits become beads, gourds become bowls, feathers become currency in the right hands. You sit beside the mat of an old storyteller who trades tales for tamales. He tells you about a farmer who once grew a maize stalk so tall it pierced the sky. The gods climbed down it to visit, but they didn't like the chili sauce and never returned. The crowd laughs. A child offers him half a mango and he starts a second story before he's even finished chewing. While wandering, you overhear debates. Two women argue over which city makes better pottery, Yaksha or Karakol. One swears by Yaksha's red glaze. The other says Karakol's pot survived drops better. They settle it the only way possible by dropping both on a rock. Karakol wins. The winner shrugs, sweeps up the shards, and says she'll use them for paint. Back at the village that evening, you help carry back the goods. Trade went well. A new obsidian blade, a woven hammock, and a tiny whistle shaped like a frog now sit in the family's corner shrine. You're invited to a small ceremony where incense is burned in thanks to the Alaksab, mischievous forest spirits who protect the fields. A bowl of honey and a small tortilla are left at the edge of the maize patch. They like snacks, your host whispers. You ask if people still believe in them. The answer is a shrug. Why not? They believed in us first. Inside the home, a woman weaves by firelight. The rhythm is soothing. Shh, clack, shh, clack. The patterns tell a story, a jaguar, a serpent, a star. She says her grandmother taught her the design and her granddaughter will learn it too. The cloth will become a huipil for a girl not yet born. You realize the past and future aren't far apart here. They're stitched into every thread. Before you sleep, the family shares one last tradition. Each member quietly thanks the day, a few words barely louder than breath. Thanks for the rain holding off. Thanks for the obsidian trade. Thanks for no snake bites. You find yourself whispering to maybe for the stars or the market jokes, or just the way the firelight feels when everyone's at peace. As you drift off, the sounds of the village hum around you. A rooster mutters in his sleep. A frog chirps near the water jar. Someone is snoring, maybe you, maybe not. And as you dream, you don't dream of temples or kings or cities in stone. You dream of cornfields, honeybees, and the quiet dignity of lives lived close to the earth. The jungle is quieter than usual this morning, not in the peaceful birdsong kind of way, but in the heavy, uneasy way that hangs over a place when something important is slipping away. You walk through what used to be a thriving city. The temples are still here, the stelae still stand. The sacred ball court still cuts through the plaza, but everything feels just a bit off. The murals are faded. The market stalls are empty. The priests mutter their prayers more anxiously now, glancing at the sky. The people still come to the plaza, but they do so out of habit, not joy. Something is changing in the Maya world, and no one quite knows what to do about it. You've stepped into the beginning of the end, not a dramatic collapse with fires and screams, but a long, slow unraveling. 100 quiet moments that taken together spell the slow downfall of the classic Maya cities. Tikal, Copan, Palenque. All these mighty names begin to falter, and you're here to witness how it starts. First, the rain stop. Not all at once. Not in every place. But enough to matter. Enough that the reservoirs begin to drop. Enough that the milpas yield a little less each year. Enough that the lakes recede just far enough to reveal things that should have stayed hidden. Old bones half buried, tools, broken offerings. The farmers are nervous. They leave cornmeal by the ceiba trees more often now. Second, the kings become louder. Desperate for legitimacy, they start building more monuments. Bigger, more dramatic, more self-congratulatory. You pass a newly erected stela showing a ruler with 3 jaguar pelts, a serpent crown, and a calendar glyph that doesn't match the sky. You ask why. A local artisan mutters he was born under a cursed moon. They're pretending it was a lucky day. The cracks are showing. Wars become more frequent. Cities once linked by marriage now raid each other's trade routes. The ball games no longer resolve disputes, they only stir new ones. Refugees trickle in from the outskirts telling stories of burned crops and raided temples. One woman from Dos Pilas says her king vanished in the night, leaving behind a necklace and a dog that refuses to eat. You pass through a city where the temples are intact but abandoned. The market still stands, but the stalls are covered in vines. A priest there offers you honey and says that he's the last one left. He performs the rites every day just in case the gods return, or in case they never left and are simply waiting for everyone else to notice. Historians still argue what caused the collapse. Was it climate change, drought soil exhaustion, political breakdown? All of the above. None the truth remains slippery. You feel it here in the empty plazas, not a single blow, but 100 paper cuts bleeding the heart of the cities dry. A fringe story you hear in a half-ruined village is that a great sky serpent swallowed time itself. That's why the calendar stopped. That's why people forgot the sacred days. You glance at the broken glyphs on the walls. Some are scratched out, others are unfinished. Maybe forgetting was easier. You walk through a field where maize no longer grows. The soil has turned to dust brittle as dried bark. A man kneels in it anyway, planting corn kernels as he weeps. "She'll grow," he says. She always grows. You don't know what to say. In another city, you meet a scribe who paints messages on tree bark and sends them downstream in bottles. There must be someone left to read them, he says. Maybe the fish. He laughs too long. His hands shake when he writes. Art changes too. You notice that the carvings become rougher, the glyphs less elegant. Some murals depict people walking away from cities carrying bundles and staring at stars. Others show kings making offerings to empty thrones. There are fewer jaguars, more skulls. One pot shows a monkey crying beside a broken calendar. It's oddly moving. Still, not all is bleak. You find pockets of resilience villages that thrive on the edges, adapting, surviving. One such community shows you how they use new irrigation methods, growing squash and beans on raised beds near swamps. Their leader wears no crown, just a necklace of bird bones and a very practical attitude. We don't need kings, she tells you, brushing a mosquito off your arm. We need water and good neighbors. Some cities try to reinvent themselves. You pass through a place that was once a minor trade outpost, now bustling as people flee the collapsing metropolises. A new plaza is being carved from the jungle, smaller but vibrant. The murals are simpler sun-corn rain. No kings, just hope. You ask a young boy if he knows the names of the old cities. He shrugs. We don't say them. The spirits are sleeping there now. And yet, life goes on. People still grind maize, still weave, still fall in love, argue, sing, raise children. But the great stone mouths of the cities are closing their plazas, growing quiet. The jungle starts to take back what was built. You climb a half-collapsed pyramid and look out. Birds flit through the canopy. Vines wrap around altars. The only sound is the wind. You close your eyes and try to picture what this place looked like when it was full of life. You don't have to try very hard. The memory is in the stones. And as night falls, you lie beneath the crumbling archway, fireflies flickering above you. Somewhere, a howler monkey roars like a lost god. You feel the weight of history not in tragedy, but in change. The Maya world isn't dying. It's becoming something else. And as sleep takes you, you wonder what the gods think of silence, The jungle breathes around you, thick and relentless, reclaiming the silent stones one vine at a time. The once great cities lie hidden beneath a shroud of greenery, their monumental pyramids softened by moss and the weight of centuries. As you walk through this quiet wilderness, you realize you've entered a world where the Maya temples are no longer the focus, they become the jungle's guests rather than its rulers. Moss blankets carved stelae like green fur. Trees split limestone foundations with slow, unyielding patience. Roots twist through doorways once walked by priests and kings. You brush aside a curtain of hanging vines and peer into a temple chamber, where a carved altar sits cracked but stubborn. It feels sacred still, though empty. This is the post-classic jungle, a time when many Maya cities were abandoned and swallowed by nature. The grand metropolises faded, but the culture didn't vanish. It adapted and endured in quieter, less visible ways. You follow ancient footpaths now overgrown but still discernible, connecting smaller settlements where people live closer to the earth and their ancestors. In this reclaimed world, the ceiba tree stands tall and untouchable, a living symbol of the connection between sky-earth and underworld. You find a clearing where three great ceibas grow their trunks wrapped in red thread, and offerings left at their bases: feathers, jade beads, corn kernels. Locals explain that these are not just trees, but sacred pillars holding the universe together. While the great plazas fall silent, smaller villages hum with life. Pottery shards show signs of new styles incorporating foreign designs, hinting at contacts with Toltecs and other distant peoples. You notice that while the grandiose artistry of the classic period has faded, a rich tradition of oral storytelling and craft continues. You sit by a fire as a storyteller spins tales of the hero twins, how they descended into Xibalba to face the lords of death and triumphed through wit and courage. You notice that despite the loss of monumental writing, the oral tradition is vibrant, carrying the culture forward even without stone or codex. A fringe idea you overhear around the fire is that the jungle itself remembers the songs and stories, that the whispering leaves and rustling branches are voices of ancestors telling their tales. You smile, imagining the forest as a vast library with no walls. You watch as a group of women weave huipil's traditional embroidered garments rich with symbolic patterns. Each stitch tells a story: the jaguar for strength, the serpent for wisdom, the star for guidance. A young girl carefully imitates her mother's motions, learning designs passed down through generations. Here, culture is worn, lived, and carried like a second skin. You visit a community celebrating a harvest festival. Though the temples are gone, the rituals remain. The air fills with music, flutes, drums, and humming voices. Offerings of corn chili and cacao are laid on altars crafted from woven reeds. Children dance in circles, faces painted with red and black pigment. Nearby, a man carves a small jaguar figurine from bone. He tells you that it's for protection during the coming rains, a talisman passed from father to son. You feel the weight of continuity, how, despite upheaval, the spirit of the Maya pulses strong. In the distance, you hear the low growl of a jaguar. You're told the cats are both feared and revered. They are hunters, guardians, and symbols of the night world. Some say their spots map the stars. You walk through the remnants of a ball court now cracked and covered in leaves. No games are played here anymore, but you imagine the cheers and chants that once echoed across the plaza. The ball game, with its mix of sport, ritual, and sacrifice, fades into memory but never fully disappears. Historians still debate whether the collapse of the classic cities was a catastrophe or a transformation, a shedding of skin. But here in the living villages, you see evidence of survival and adaptation. As night falls, fireflies blink like stars reborn. The jungle hums a lullaby. You lie beneath a vast sky and listen not just to the present, but to the echoes of the past. The Maya may have lost their cities, but their soul remains woven into every leaf, every whispered story, every woven thread. You wake not to jungle sounds this time, but to the soft murmur of voices speaking languages you almost understand. The mountains rise steep and sharp around you, their peaks slicing the sky with jagged edges. You're in the highlands now, far from the limestone lowlands where most of the grand cities once stood. Here the Maya never vanished. They adapted. They endured. This is where the living Maya live today, people who speak ancient tongues like Kaichaquechi and Tzotzil. Their villages cling to hillsides, their markets burst with color and spice, their festivals echo old gods and new saints alike. The past isn't gone here, it's a thread woven tight into daily life. You stroll through a bustling town square where vendors sell woven cloths embroidered with patterns passed down for generations, fresh tortillas still warm from the griddle, and pots of thick, spicy atole. A child runs past holding a carved wooden mask, half jaguar, half human. Someone laughs nearby, recounting a story about the last rain god who hid inside a volcano. The blend of old and new is everywhere. A painted church stands beside a pre-Columbian shrine. Saints wear feathered headdresses and murals. Processions wind through cobblestone streets carrying crosses alongside bundles of maize. The Maya have merged their beliefs with Catholicism, creating a rich tapestry of faith. You join a ceremony honoring both the Virgin Mary and Ixchel, the goddess of the moon and weaving. Candles flicker, incense swirls, and the air hums with prayers in two worlds. It's a delicate dance of survival, holding on to identity while adapting to change. You learn that many Maya still use the ancient calendar for planting and festivals, marking solstices with fire and dance. They chant in old languages, telling stories that predate written history. Oral tradition keeps the culture alive, a living bridge between eras. A fringe tale you hear involves a hidden codex, one said to contain the secrets of the Maya cosmos passed from elder to elder. Some say it's locked away in a mountain cave. Others claim it was destroyed centuries ago. You wonder if such mysteries still pulse beneath the surface, waiting for a curious soul. In a weaving workshop, you watch artisans create huipils, their hands steady and sure. Each pattern tells a story, a mountain range, a river, a constellation. You try to memorize the symbols, but realize they're not just designs, they're history, identity, and prayer stitched into fabric. The market fills with music as dancers begin a traditional folk dance. Their movements echo ancient rituals but feel alive and spontaneous. Children join in laughter spilling like water. The spirit of the Maya is vibrant here in song and story and skin. You meet a Maya elder who speaks about the resilience of his people. They tried to erase us, he says quietly. But we are here. We speak. We remember. We dream. The sun sets behind the volcanoes, painting the sky with fiery hues. You watch as the stars emerge, some familiar, others unfamiliar, but all shining above this land that has cradled the Maya through millennia. As night deepens, you feel the pulse of a culture that never truly faded. A culture that breathes in mountain air, whispers through woven cloth, and sings in the heartbeat of its people. The dawn breaks with a soft glow over the highland villages, but today your path leads deeper into a world where the ancient Maya and new forces collide, a world where old gods meet new saints, where the timeless rhythms of the jungle interlace with the rigid bells of the Spanish church. This is the era when the Maya religion begins to shift, bend, and blend, a fascinating dance of survival, adaptation, and subtle resistance. You enter a town where narrow stone streets wind between whitewashed walls and brightly painted wooden doors. The scent of copal incense mixes with the aroma of fresh tortillas and rich coffee. On one corner, a mural depicts a traditional Maya jaguar alongside the Virgin Mary arms outstretched, as if inviting all to shelter beneath her mantle. The edges are worn, but the colors still pulse with life. This place is a living testament to syncretism, the blending of indigenous Maya beliefs with the imported Catholic faith brought by Spanish colonizers. It's a complicated, sometimes contradictory fusion, but one that has allowed Maya spirituality to endure beneath the pressures of conquest and forced conversion. You watch as a procession begins to snake through the streets. Women in embroidered quibbles carry bouquets of marigolds and roses. Men follow bearing crosses decorated with ribbons and beads. The rhythm of drums and marimbas fills the air, creating a soundtrack that could belong equally to ancient rituals or modern church festivals. At the head of the procession is a figure that captures your attention, a young woman dressed as the Virgin Mary, but her crown is woven with maize silk, and around her neck hangs a necklace of jade beads. She pauses by a small shrine set beneath a ceiba tree, placing a bouquet of wildflowers next to a carved wooden figure of Chak, the rain god. The juxtaposition is striking, two belief systems coexisting in a delicate embrace. Historians still argue whether this syncretism was a strategic survival mechanism by the Maya or a sincere blending of faiths. Maybe it's both. The line between adaptation and preservation is thin here, more a shifting gradient than a hard divide. You're invited into a local home where a family gathers to celebrate a saint's feast day. The walls are adorned with both religious paintings and hand-woven tapestries depicting scenes from Maya mythology hero twins, defeating the lords of Xibalba, the maize god's resurrection, the celestial serpent coiling through the sky. The family's patriarch explains that their prayers call on both saints and ancestral spirits. They listen, he says simply. A few children play nearby, chanting prayers learned from their grandparents, mixing Spanish and Quichua words with a cadence that is both familiar and otherworldly. You notice one boy tracing glyph-like symbols in the dirt with a stick as if trying to capture the ghosts of his ancestors in the soil. This blending extends to daily life. Cornfields are blessed with both Christian holy water and traditional offerings, small bowls of honey, chili, and flowers left at the roots. Farmers whisper to the earth in Maya, asking permission to sow while carrying rosaries and medals in their pockets. You attend a ritual where a shaman adorned with feathers and painted face leads a ceremony invoking both Catholic saints and Maya deities. The air is thick with smoke and song. Participants dance in circles, their movements a fusion of indigenous steps and European influences. At times the voices rise to a shout, then fall into soft chanting, creating a tapestry of sound that echoes across centuries. At the heart of the ceremony is a sacred ceiba tree, its trunk wrapped in red and white cloth, the colors of life and death. Offerings hang from its branches, carved wooden masks, colorful ribbons, and small clay figures. The shaman speaks to the tree as if it were an old friend, calling it the world tree that holds the heavens, earth, and underworld together. It's a concept that has endured remarkably, even as the names and rituals around it have changed. You ask a young woman about the meaning of these customs. She smiles and replies, "Our ancestors are not gone. They walk with us in every prayer, every meal, every breath." She gestures to the woven patterns on her blouse, each symbol a story, a prayer, a link to the past. The fusion is not without tension. In some communities, traditional practices are viewed with suspicion by church authorities, while elders fiercely defend their rights as essential to identity. Sometimes festivals are held in secret or at odd hours to avoid confrontation. The resilience of the Maya spirit shows in these quiet acts of devotion. A fringe story circulates about a mysterious figure known as the Jaguar Priest, said to move between worlds both spiritual and physical, guiding lost souls and protecting sacred knowledge. Some say he appears during storms, his eyes glowing like fire. Others whisper he was a shaman who merged with the jaguar spirit to survive the harshest times. Whether myth or memory, his tale captures the imagination and reminds everyone that the boundaries between worlds here are fluid. You spend evenings listening to elders recounting stories that blend saints and spirits, miracles, and magic. One tells of a rainstorm that saved a village, credited to both St. Peter's prayers and Chak's anger at disrespect. Another recounts a dream where the Virgin Mary spoke in the voice of a grandmother long gone. You realize that for the Maya, spirituality is not confined to neat categories. It's a living, breathing tapestry woven from threads old and new, light and shadow, survival and hope. Walking back through the town, lanterns flicker, and shadows dance on adobe walls. The jungle hums nearby, ancient and patient. You pause beneath the star-studded sky and reflect on the journey of people who, despite centuries of upheaval, still carry their gods and dreams in their hearts. And as you close your eyes, the sacred Keba tree whispers to the night, holding together worlds seen and unseen, past and present, forever entwined. The air hangs heavy with humidity and the faint, persistent scent of copal incense, mingled with earth and the smoke of burning wood. You find yourself trekking through dense jungle paths that wind their way toward a small fortified settlement nestled against a rocky outcrop. The sounds here are different, less the constant chorus of birdsong and insect calls, more the nervous whisper of villagers preparing for a storm of steel and fire. You have stepped into the last chapters of Maya resistance against Spanish conquest. The year is somewhere in the mid-1600s, but time here is as tangled as the vines clinging to the stones beneath your feet. This is the last stand of the Maya priest kings and warriors who refused to surrender their land, their gods, and their way of life. You are following the footsteps of a defiant leader, a priest king whose name is whispered with reverence and fear, Kanek. Kan-ik is more than a man. He's a symbol of an ancient world refusing to bow to foreign guns and prayers. You see him now clad in jaguar skins and adorned with jade beads, standing atop a stone platform, his voice ringing out in a rallying cry that stirs the hearts of his people. His eyes gleam with a mixture of sorrow and fierce determination. The Spanish armies with their muskets and horses are closing in. But here in the shadow of the mountains and thick forest, the Maya fight back with everything they have. Guerrilla tactics, knowledge of the land, and unwavering spirit. You watch as the community fortifies its walls with sharpened stakes and trenches. Women weave nets and prepare food. Children are hidden away in caves. Elders chant blessings and curses in equal measure. The sound of distant drums echoes the heartbeat of the resistance. This is not just a military conflict, it's a clash of worlds. The Spanish, led by colonial governors and missionaries, see the Maya as heathens to be subdued, their temples to be torn down, their codices to be burned. They bring not only weapons, but a devastating new faith. The Maya respond by weaving Catholic symbols into their rituals, a survival tactic cloaked in resilience. You walk through the village and hear stories of secret gatherings held deep in the jungle, midnight masses beneath the canopy, where priests blend the names of saints with those of old gods. The cross is painted on wooden idols. Rosaries are strung with jade beads. Hymns echo the rhythms of traditional chants. These hybrid ceremonies are acts of both faith and defiance. You meet a shaman who speaks of visions. He claims the gods have shown him a path through the turmoil, a way for the people to endure beyond the bloodshed. He tells you of a prophecy that the Maya will rise again, not through swords, but through memory language and the land itself. His words hang in the thick air like smoke rings, fragile yet persistent. As the conflict intensifies, you hear of skirmishes, where the Maya use their intimate knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver the Spanish. Ambushes in narrow passes, traps woven from vines and thorns, sudden attacks that vanish like mist. The jungle becomes a fortress and a weapon. The invaders struggle against the green labyrinth. One night you find yourself beside Konek as he watches the stars. He traces constellations with a steady hand, murmuring names that blend ancient myth with Christian faith. The heavens do not forget, he says quietly. Neither will we, but the weight of the siege is heavy. Food supplies dwindle. The wounded are many. Spirits waver. You witness a council where elders debate whether to flee deeper into the forest or stand and fight. The answer is never simple. For many, fleeing is losing. Standing is certain death. You observe a heartbreaking scene where a mother hands her child to a stranger, tears shining in her eyes. Keep him safe, she begs. The child clutches a small wooden cross carved with serpent motifs, a talisman of both worlds. Stories circulate of miraculous escapes warriors disappearing into smoke villagers, hidden by illusions conjured through ritual dances. Even tales of jaguar spirits taking human form to lead enemies astray. Whether truth or myth, these stories fortify the community's resolve. Amid the chaos, cultural life perseveres. You attend a clandestine weaving circle where women create huipoles, adorned with hidden messages, symbols of hope, resistance, and identity sewn into every thread. One elder whispers that the fabric carries the prayers of ancestors, a shield woven from memory. You hear the anguished cries of musicians playing reed flutes and drums in the dead of night, their melodies mourning fallen comrades and celebrating life's fragile persistence. These songs passed down orally are more than music, they are the heartbeat of a people refusing to be erased. The Spanish bring missionaries who enforce harsh conversions, often burning sacred objects and punishing traditional practices. Yet the Maya adapt. They blend their cosmology with Catholic teachings, creating rituals that honor both saints and ancestral gods. This religious syncretism is both survival and subtle rebellion. In a dimly lit cave used as a sanctuary, you witness a midnight mass that begins with a Catholic prayer, but soon shifts into a traditional ceremony invoking chalk and ixchel. Smoke curls from copal, mingling with the scent of candles. The congregation's voices rise, bridging centuries and faiths. As the siege wears on, Konek becomes a legend, not just for his leadership, but for his embodiment of Maya resilience. Tales grow that he can call the jaguars, command the storms, and walk unseen through the forest. Whether truth or folklore, his spirit inspires. In your last days here, you visit the ruins of a once great temple. The stones are cracked, the glyphs faded, but the place hums with memory. You touch the carved faces, feeling the pulse of history beneath your fingertips. Night falls. You sit beneath a sky pierced by stars, feeling the weight of loss, but also the fire of endurance. The Maya may have lost their kingdoms, but their spirit woven into every leaf, every song, every whispered prayer burns still. And as sleep takes you, you carry with you the story of a people who fought, not just for land, but for their soul. The sky is leaden, and a soft rain falls thick as a curtain, dampening the earth but not the spirit. You find yourself in a time when the fragile flicker of Maya-written history almost vanishes under the cold shadow of colonization. The great codices, those precious bark paper books filled with glyphs, Myths and star charts have been condemned, hunted, and burned. And yet the stories, the knowledge, the magic, they persist whispered and woven into memory. You enter a small village where the only writing to be seen is carved into worn wooden idols and scratched onto pottery shards. The codices are gone, lost to flame and time, but the elders speak of them with reverence and sorrow. They say the books were sacred keys, the maps to the gods and the cosmos, and losing them was like losing a part of the sky. The Spanish friars called them heretical dangerous. One morning you hear the chilling tale of Bishop Diego de Landa, who in 1562 famously ordered a mass burning of Maya codices in the city of Mani. Flames devoured the intricate pages' smoke, carrying away centuries of celestial charts, ritual knowledge, and history. The loss echoes through the ages, but the Maya are nothing if not survivors. The knowledge did not die. Instead, it fled into the shadows, turning from ink on paper to breath in the wind. Words passed mouth to ear, story to child. The Popol Vuh, the sacred Maya text, lives on, transcribed in the 18th century from oral tradition, its origins tracing back centuries. You spend days sitting with storytellers hearing versions of the Popol Vuh that change with each telling, but keep the core hero twins, trickery, death, rebirth, and the creation of the world. Their voices rise and fall like the jungle chorus, the stories acting as living vessels of memory. A woman shows you a finely embroidered hupil, the patterns and abstract retelling of those myths, twin serpents' maze ears, underworld creatures. She says we cannot write the stories, but we wear them. We carry them with us. The fabric pulses with meaning, a tapestry of survival. You notice that without the codices, the Maya adapted their ritual calendar through song and dance, passing on the sacred cycles through performance. You attend a festival where dancers enact the Popol Vuh narrative, their movements tracing the journey of the hero twins through Xibalba, the underworld. Masks glitter with shells and feathers, drums thunder like heartbeats, and the crowd gasps and cheers as the twins outwit death itself. Some priests still memorize the complex calendar counts, reciting dates and omens that govern planting, harvesting, and ceremony. It is a delicate art passed down in secret, often under the watchful eyes of colonial authorities. Historians still argue how much of this knowledge was preserved and how much reinvented through collective memory. You hear whispers of codices that survived hidden in caves or buried beneath temple ruins waiting to be rediscovered. A fringe tale tells of a priest who encoded sacred knowledge into the patterns of woven baskets, their designs serving as secret manuscripts only those trained in the lore could interpret. You visit a weaver who carefully lays out a series of baskets. Each one is a labyrinth of colors and shapes telling stories of creation, rain, and maze. "It is our book," she says softly, "our way of keeping the words alive." The village's market bustles with life despite the weight of loss. Potters paint symbols that hint at forgotten glyphs. Children play games echoing ancient ball games, and elders gather to tell stories beneath ceiba trees wrapped in red thread. The threads you learn are not just decoration, they are lifelines to ancestors. In the evenings, you sit by fires where elders chant prayers, blending Maya words with Spanish phrases. The sound is hypnotic, a melding of two worlds. It reminds you that faith, like culture, is never static, but a living, breathing thing. One night, you meet a man who claims his family descends from scribes who once copied codices in secret. He shows you a faded manuscript, written not in bark paper, but scratched onto a palm leaf, its symbols worn but unmistakable. He reads a passage that speaks of the maize god's death and resurrection, a story that resonates deeply in this land of cycles. The loss of the codices is profound, yet the Maya's response is a testament to resilience and creativity. The written word gave way to the spoken word, and stories became vessels carrying history, identity, and hope. This oral tradition is fragile but fierce, a flame guarded by countless voices. As you leave the village, the rain slows to a mist. The forest around you seems to lean closer, as if listening to the echoes of lost books and the whispered tales they inspired. You realize that while ink on paper may burn, the spirit of a people cannot be so easily extinguished. The Maya's story lives on in song and dance, in the threads of cloth, and in the quiet strength of memory carried through generations. And as night settles, you feel the pulse of that enduring story beating strong beneath the stars. The late afternoon sun filters through the dense jungle canopy, casting dappled shadows on the woven mats where Maya women gather their fingers. Nimble and sure as they work intricate patterns into huipils, the traditional embroidered blouses that are as much a map of identity as a piece of clothing. You sit among them, feeling the steady rhythm of their weaving, a quiet pulse that has echoed through generations. The act of weaving here is not merely craft, it is storytelling, resistance, and preservation, all wrapped into one. Every motif is a language, every thread a phrase in the ongoing narrative of Maya culture. You watch as an elder carefully guides a young girl's hands, teaching her the difference between the jaguar spots, symbols of power and protection, and the swirling spirals that represent water and life. The huipil is both art and archive. Worn by women in daily life and at sacred ceremonies, it carries stories too precious to be forgotten stories, once written in books that were burned, stories now embedded in fabric. This weaving circle represents a form of cultural resilience that has quietly flourished even as the world around it has shifted dramatically. The Maya people, dispersed and subjected to centuries of colonial pressure, have held tight to these threads of tradition, stitching their heritage into the very fabric of existence. You learn that the patterns vary by region and lineage. Some designs are specific to certain families or communities, carrying encoded information about ancestry, social status, and spiritual beliefs. A particular diamond shape might symbolize a sacred mountain, while the repeated zigzag echoes the flow of the nearby rivers. Each color is carefully chosen for meaning: red for life and blood, blue for the sky and rain, yellow for corn, white for purity and renewal. One of the younger weavers tells you about the deep connection between weaving and the Maya creation story. She explains how the hero twins in their journey through the underworld encounter weaving and spinning as sacred acts that represent the cycles of life and death, chaos and order. Our hands weave the world, she says softly, just as the gods wove the heavens. This sacred symbolism extends beyond textiles. You observe how weaving and storytelling intertwine with narratives shared as oral performances accompanying the physical act of creating cloth. Songs and chants echo softly as the women work, preserving histories, myths, and moral lessons that anchor their communities. The cultural significance of weaving also reveals subtle acts of resistance. During periods when indigenous practices were outlawed or suppressed, the continuation of traditional weaving became a form of quiet defiance. Wearing huipils with sacred symbols was a way to assert identity and maintain a connection to the past without drawing the ire of colonial authorities. Your attention is drawn to a particular design called the cosmic serpent, a flowing motif that winds across fabric representing the link between earth and sky, the living and the dead. This serpent is both protector and guide, echoing similar imagery found carved on temple walls and painted on ancient ceramics. The stories told through weaving are deeply intertwined with natural cycles and agricultural rhythms. The planting and harvesting of maize, the turning of seasons, the phases of the moon, each informs the patterns and colors chosen. You realize that every huipil is a celebration of life's continuity, an unbroken chain connecting past, present, and future. In addition to the symbolism, weaving is a social act. The gathering of women to work collectively creates a space of shared knowledge and mutual support. Stories and experiences are exchanged alongside the threads, strengthening bonds within the community. It's a living classroom where wisdom is passed from elder to child in a way that words alone cannot convey. You're invited to participate, and though your hands fumble, the women patiently guide you. The repetitive motion is meditative, a gentle lull that soothes the mind, even as it requires focus. As you work, you feel connected not only to these women, but to countless generations who have sat in similar circles under open skies or by firelight. Nearby, a small group of men discuss the day's events, including recent efforts to revive traditional ceremonies that had been interrupted during the darkest periods of colonization. They talk of planting festivals where songs are sung in ancient languages, rituals that call upon the rain god Chach, and offerings laid at the roots of sacred ceiba trees. The intersection of weaving and ceremony is palpable. The huipil is worn during these sacred events, transforming from everyday attire to a ceremonial mantle charged with spiritual significance. It is said that wearing a huipil imbued with ancestral patterns protects the wearer and connects them to the cosmic order. You join a festival held to celebrate the maize harvest where the vibrant colors of huipils blend with the gold of corn stalks and the deep greens of the jungle. Music fills the air, flutes, drums, and rattles echo ancient rhythms. Dancers move gracefully, their garments swirling like living stories. The festival includes a ritual weaving circle where women demonstrate their skills, weaving new cloth that will be blessed and used in the coming year's ceremonies. The air is filled with chants invoking the maize god, the rain spirits, and the ancestors. The community comes together not only to honor the harvest, but to reaffirm their connection to the land and their heritage. In a quiet moment, you converse with an elder who reflects on the importance of weaving as a tool for cultural survival. When our words were taken, we wove them into cloth. When our temples fell silent, the stories lived on in patterns and thread. This is how we remember. This is how we endure. She tells you that the revival of traditional weaving has also become a source of economic empowerment, with women selling their beautiful huipils in markets and festivals, supporting their families while promoting their culture. Despite centuries of upheaval, the weaving tradition has adapted and thrived. New generations embrace the craft, blending old symbols with contemporary designs, ensuring that Maya culture remains dynamic and relevant. You leave the weaving circle with a newfound respect for this humble art. It is more than fabric, it is a living archive, a declaration of identity, and a vibrant thread connecting a resilient people across time. As you walk back through the jungle, the sounds of the festival fade into the night. The hum of insects, the rustle of leaves, and the distant beat of drums remind you that the Maya story is still being woven one thread at a time. The dense jungle air is heavy with humidity, and the faint, sweet aroma of wild honey as you step cautiously into the lush, tangled forests that cover much of the Maya homeland. But today, your focus is not on temples or kings or ancient cities. Rather, it's on a very different kind of story, one that links the Maya people to the untamed forest itself. You've come to learn about the intertwined histories of chicle rebels and chewing gum, and the surprising ways they shape the Maya's struggle for survival in a rapidly changing world. Chicle is the sticky sap of the sapodilla tree, and long before it became the base of modern chewing gum, it was a treasured natural resource harvested by Maya and other indigenous peoples for centuries. You follow a seasoned chicle tapper, a wizened man named Martine, as he moves deftly through the trees with a curved knife. With practiced strokes, he scores the bark to release the milky sap, which oozes slowly into small cups fashioned from gourds. The sap hardens to a rubbery consistency, and you bite cautiously into a piece. It's soft, slightly bitter, and sticky, nothing like the sweet chewing gum you know. But this natural chicle has long been a source of trade and tradition. Chickle's importance dramatically increased in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when American companies began to commercialize chewing gum as a popular confection. The demand for chicle surged, leading to an economic boom for chicle tappers across the Maya region. Martin explains how this booming industry attracted many Maya men and women to tap forests sometimes far from their villages, living a life bound deeply to the rhythm of the forest and the sapodilla trees. The trade connected remote communities to global markets, bringing both wealth and new challenges. However, the chicle boom also brought exploitation and environmental strain. The vast tracts of forest where the sapodilla trees thrived were often overharvested. Martin tells you how the expansion of chicle tapping disrupted traditional forest management and sometimes forced Maya workers into precarious labor arrangements with outside companies. You see that the chicle trade was not just an economic opportunity, it was also a battleground for Maya autonomy and control over their ancestral lands. The late 19th and early 20th centuries were also a period of intense social upheaval for the Maya. You're told stories of Maya rebels who rose up against oppressive plantation owners and colonial authorities. These insurgencies were fueled by grievances over land dispossession, forced labor, and cultural suppression. The dense forests, including the chicle-rich areas, became sanctuaries for these rebels, whose knowledge of the jungle gave them an edge against better-equipped forces. You meet a descendant of one such rebel, a woman named Juana, who tells you of her great-grandfather's involvement in guerrilla actions that aimed to reclaim land and protect Maya communities. She holds a worn photograph of him in faded military garb and recounts how the jungle was their greatest ally, a place where they could disappear, regroup, and strike back. The mingling of chicle tapping and rebel activity created a unique cultural space where Maya resilience and resistance took root. In the forest amidst the sapodilla trees, the fight for survival was as much about protecting natural resources as it was about defending people's rights and identities. Chewing gum, you learn, became more than just a product, it was a symbol. For many Maya chicle tappers, chewing chicle was a daily ritual that connected them to their ancestors in the forest. It was also an act of cultural continuity in a world rapidly shifting under colonial and capitalist pressures. One day you visit a small forest village where elders gather to recount stories of the chicle trade and rebel struggles. They sing songs in ancient Maya languages, their voices rising and falling like the rustling leaves. These songs tell of sapodilla trees as sacred beings of spirits that protect the forest, and of heroes who fought to defend their homes. The songs and stories are vital threads in the community's identity passed down through generations. You're invited to join a ritual celebrating the sapodilla tree's spirit. Around a fire, participants offer cornmeal flowers and candles at the base of a massive centuries-old sapodilla tree. The air is filled with smoke and song, and the community leader prays for protection and abundance. The ritual is both a spiritual homage and a statement of stewardship, a reminder that the forest is alive and must be respected. The environmental impact of chicle tapping is a complex issue. While the sapodilla tree can survive, sustainable harvesting, overexploitation threatens the forest's balance. You see areas where tap scars cover trees like scars on skin, evidence of intense human activity. Conservation efforts now seek to balance economic needs with ecological preservation, often led by Maya communities themselves. The intertwining of chicle rebellion and chewing gum is emblematic of the Maya's broader story of resilience, a story of adapting and resisting amid upheaval. As the world changed around them, the Maya people navigated new economies and political realities while holding fast to their cultural roots. You reflect on how this chapter of Maya history challenges simplistic narratives of conquest and collapse. Instead, it reveals a vibrant tapestry of struggle, creativity, and survival woven through forests and fields, songs and sap. As dusk falls, you sit beneath a towering sapodilla tree chewing on a piece of raw chicle. The taste is strange, but grounding, a reminder that sometimes the sweetest things are those tied to history in the land itself. You close your eyes, listening to the forest heartbeat, the distant call of birds, the rustle of leaves, the murmur of streams, and feel a profound connection to a people and a place that continue to thrive, defy, and endure. The earth beneath your feet feels heavy today, burdened by stories both tragic and resilient. You find yourself drawn into the shadows of Guatemala's recent past, a time when the Maya people endured wounds that reached deep into the present. This is the era of civil war, a brutal conflict that tore through communities, fractured families, and left scars, visible and invisible alike. You're about to witness how the Maya bore this weight, surviving amid violence and upheaval, while clinging to the threads of identity and hope. Guatemala's civil war, spanning from 1960 to 1996, is a harrowing chapter in modern Maya history. The conflict pitted government forces against leftist insurgents, with indigenous Maya communities caught in the crossfire. The state, driven by fears of rebellion and political change, unleashed campaigns of terror that disproportionately targeted Maya villages. The war wasn't just about ideology, it was a struggle over land culture and survival. You travel to a mountain village where memories of the war remain vivid. The landscape bears physical reminders: bullet-ridden walls, abandoned homes, and mass graves concealed beneath the forest floor. But beyond these, you sense a deeper, more haunting presence, the lingering pain carried by survivors and their descendants. An elder named Miguel meets you in the village square. His face is lined with years, his eyes reflecting both sorrow and strength. He recounts his childhood growing up in a community that became a battleground. "We lived in fear," he says quietly. "Every knock on the door could be the last." His voice trembles as he speaks of neighbors disappeared in the night, families torn apart. You walk with Miguel through the village, past the small school where children now learn both Spanish and their ancestral Kaqchikel language. The school stands as a beacon of hope, a place where the wounds of the past are acknowledged and healing begins. The legacy of violence led to a resurgence of Maya cultural pride and political activism. Communities mobilized to reclaim their rights, preserve their languages, and seek justice for the atrocities committed. You attend a gathering where villagers share stories of resistance, how they maintained traditions despite oppression, how they rebuilt homes and lives from the ashes. At a local museum, photographs and testimonies document the human toll. You see images of protest marches, clandestine meetings, and memorials honoring the disappeared. The pain is raw but intertwined with determination. Music plays softly in the background, a haunting blend of traditional Maya melodies and modern instruments. The lyrics speak of loss, resilience, and the enduring spirit of a people who refuse to be silenced. You meet a young woman, Anna, who is a descendant of survivors. She speaks passionately about the importance of remembering the past while building a future rooted in Maya identity. Anna teaches traditional weaving and storytelling to children, believing that culture is the key to healing. The oral histories passed down during the war years carry stories of courage amid terror, how elders hid sacred objects, how families preserved language in secret, how communities maintained rituals despite fear. These stories serve as both testimony and resistance. You visit a ceremonial site where a memorial service is held annually to honor victims of the conflict. Candles flicker in the dusk, offerings of flowers and corn are laid on stone altars. The ceremony blends Catholic prayers with ancient Maya rites, a poignant symbol of the intertwined identities forged through suffering and survival. You learn about efforts to document human rights abuses through truth commissions and international advocacy. While justice remains elusive for many, these initiatives represent a collective commitment to acknowledgement and reconciliation. The war's impact extends beyond physical violence. Psychological scars, displacement, and poverty continue to affect Maya communities. Yet amidst this, you witness powerful examples of resilience. Cooperative farming projects, language revitalization programs, and cultural festivals all signal a determination to reclaim dignity and agency. You attend a festival celebrating Maya heritage, where music, dance, and ritual weave together. Participants wear vibrant huipils embroidered with symbols of life and renewal. The air is alive with drum beats and laughter, a stark contrast to the somber memories beneath the surface. In conversation with community leaders, you hear about the challenges ahead: preserving language in the face of globalization, combating discrimination, and ensuring that younger generations understand the depth of their heritage and the struggles endured. A storyteller recounts a parable: a jaguar wounded in battle, but refusing to yield healing its wounds while maintaining the strength to protect its territory. The jaguar, he says, is a symbol for the Maya people themselves. As night falls, you stand beneath a vast sky where stars shimmer like ancestral eyes watching over the land. The forest around you hums softly, carrying whispers of pain and hope. You reflect on how history's darkest moments are often where resilience shines brightest. The Maya people have faced unimaginable challenges: colonial conquest, cultural suppression, and civil war. But through it all, they have preserved their identity, language, and spirit. In the quiet that follows, you understand that the story of the Maya is not just one of loss, but of enduring strength, a testament to a people who continue to walk the path between memory and hope, carrying their past with dignity into the future. The modern world has a habit of invading sacred spaces, and nowhere is this more apparent than in the towering ruins of the Maya's northernmost cities, where tourists in brightly colored hats and selfie sticks shuffle past ancient stones that once echoed with the footsteps of kings and priests. You join the crowd at Chichen Itza, a place that hums with layers of history, powerful, mysterious, and occasionally a bit touristy. The pyramid of Kukulkan dominates the landscape, its steps worn smooth by centuries and visitors alike. Standing at its base, you feel a mix of awe and bemusement as you watch tourists attempt the climb, despite warning signs, snapping photos with exaggerated poses and competing for the perfect shot of the pyramid against the blazing blue sky. The 2012 phenomenon lingers in the air like an awkward ghost. You overhear excited chatter about the Maya calendar's supposed prediction of the world's end, a myth that skyrocketed the site's popularity worldwide. Tourists sport t-shirts emblazoned with "I survived 2012, while local guides sigh used to correcting misconceptions. The reality is more nuanced. The Maya calendar marks cycles, not apocalypse, but popular culture loves a good doomsday story. You navigate through the bustling market stalls selling jade jewelry, woven textiles, and mass-produced trinkets. Vendors call out in a mix of Spanish and English, weaving traditional designs with flashy souvenirs. It's a place where ancient heritage meets capitalism head-on. Nearby, a group gathers for a reenactment of the Maya ballgame. Performers dressed in colorful costumes demonstrate the rules and rituals, complete with dramatic dances and symbolic sacrifices, all very safely simulated. Children squeal with delight as the players attempt to score points using hips and shoulders, their faces painted with vibrant colors. It's both education and entertainment, a living bridge to the past that appeals to a broad audience. You find a quiet corner near the sacred cenote, a natural sinkhole that once served as a site of ritual offerings and sacrifices. Local guides recount stories of precious jade gold artifacts and even human remains tossed into its depths as offerings to the rain god Kak. The water is clear but deep, a shimmering mirror reflecting centuries of mystery and reverence. As you stroll along the well-maintained paths, you can't help but notice the contrast between the ancient stonework and the modern infrastructure designed to accommodate the masses. Handrails, information plaques, snack stands. The balance between preservation and accessibility is delicate and often controversial. Beyond the main site, you explore the less visited ruins of Ekbalam, where faded murals and intricate sculptures speak of a different era and style. The temple here, with its imposing jaguar throne and well-preserved stucco masks, gives you a glimpse into the diversity of Maya culture often overshadowed by more famous sites. Your guide shares stories that go beyond the stones about the descendants of the Maya who still live in the region, maintaining languages and customs that connect them to this land. You visit a nearby village where traditional weaving is practiced alongside farming, and children learn both Spanish and Maya languages in school. The community welcomes visitors, warmly eager to share their culture beyond the tourist veneer. You sit with elders who recall legends passed down through generations, stories of heroes, gods, and the eternal cycles of the sun and moon. At night, you attend a cultural event featuring traditional dance and music. Performers dressed in feathered headdresses and embroidered costumes enact scenes from the Popol Vuh, the sacred Maya text. The rhythm of drums and the haunting melody of flutes fill the air, transporting you back in time, if only for a moment. You reflect on the complex relationship between tourism and heritage preservation. While tourism brings much-needed economic support to communities, it also risks commodifying culture and damaging fragile archaeological sites. Local activists advocate for sustainable tourism that respects both the land and the people. One afternoon, you meet a young Maya activist who is using social media to educate the world about the true history and living culture of the Maya. She explains how she combats stereotypes and misinformation, including the 2012 apocalypse myth, by sharing stories in her native language in English. Her passion is infectious, and you realize that the Maya story continues to evolve and thrive in new forms. You also explore the contemporary artistic scene, where Maya artists blend traditional motifs with modern themes, creating works that challenge and celebrate identity. Paintings, sculptures, and textiles express the tensions and triumphs of a people negotiating their place in the 21st century. Amidst the ruins and the crowds, you find moments of quiet reflection. Standing on a platform overlooking the jungle canopy, you watch the sunset casting long shadows over the stone steps. The wind whispers through the trees, carrying the voices of the past and the present. You think about the Maya not as a relic of history, but as a living culture complex, diverse and resilient. The pyramids, the bald courts, the calendars, they are monuments not just to a vanished civilization, but to an ongoing story. As you prepare to leave the site, you carry with you a deeper understanding of the Maya's enduring legacy, woven into the fabric of the land, the people, and the stories told beneath the endless sky. The morning mist still clings to the mountains as you enter a bustling Maya village where ancient tradition breathes vividly in the present day. This is not a museum piece or a tourist attraction, this is real life. The Maya people here live in a world that is both deeply rooted in ancestral customs and dynamically engaged with the complexities of the modern era. As you walk through the narrow dirt streets, you are invited into a vibrant tapestry of daily life, where the ancient and the contemporary meld into a single living story. You begin your day in a household where a family is preparing for the planting season. The air smells of fresh earth roasted corn and the subtle sweetness of burning copal incense. The women dressed in colorful huipils embroidered with traditional patterns weave baskets and prepare food while the men tend to tools and clear fields. Children dart between them, their laughter mingling with the songs of birds and the rhythmic pounding of a grinding stone. The family welcomes you warmly, eager to share not only their food, but their knowledge and stories. You learn that the agricultural calendar remains central to life-guiding planting, harvesting, and ritual. The cycles of maize, the sacred staple, are intertwined with festivals honoring Shak, the rain god, and Ixchel, the goddess of fertility and weaving. These celebrations are not mere relics. They are lived experiences that sustain both body and spirit. The patriarch of the family explains how the knowledge of the seasons and the stars has been passed down through generations, a living inheritance. He gestures toward the sky where Venus rises just before dawn, signaling the time to begin planting. The precision of this ancient astronomical system remains astonishing, a testament to the Maya's enduring relationship with the cosmos. You observe as the family performs a traditional offering at the edge of the milpa. Cornmeal flowers and candles are laid at the roots of a tziba tree, believed to be the cosmic axis connecting earth, sky, and underworld. This ritual honors the spirits of the land and seeks their blessings for a bountiful harvest. The blending of pre-Hispanic and Catholic elements is evident, reflecting the syncretic spirituality that has shaped Maya identity over centuries. The day unfolds with moments of quiet labor and communal sharing. You help plant seeds, feeling the warm soil between your fingers and sensing the deep connection between people and land. The work is physical, repetitive, and yet filled with meaning that transcends the mundane. As afternoon wanes, you join a gathering at the village plaza, where elders recite stories and histories in Quiche and Quechua languages. Their voices rise and fall like waves weaving tales of creation, heroism, and survival. These oral traditions preserve the collective memory, serving as living repositories of identity in the absence of written records lost to history. A young woman stands to perform a traditional dance, her movements fluid and symbolic. The dance recounts the journey of the hero twins, their trials in the underworld, and ultimate triumph. The rhythm of drums and flutes echoes through the plaza, inviting participation and reflection. You feel the energy of a community engaged in a timeless dialogue with its past. You visit the village school where children learn both Spanish and their ancestral language. The curriculum includes history and cultural studies, aiming to nurture pride and understanding in the younger generation. A teacher explains the challenges of balancing modern education with the preservation of indigenous knowledge and practices. In the marketplace, artisans sell textiles, pottery, and carved wooden masks, each item imbued with symbolic significance. The economy here blends traditional crafts with tourism, offering both opportunity and tension. Vendors negotiate prices with visitors while maintaining respect for their cultural heritage. As evening approaches, you attend a ceremony honoring the ancestors. The community gathers around a fire, sharing food and stories. Prayers are offered in both Maya and Spanish, reflecting the dual heritage. The ritual acknowledges the sacrifices of the past and the hopes for the future, a poignant reminder of continuity amid change. You reflect on the resilience embodied in this community, how, despite centuries of colonization, violence, and marginalization, the Maya people maintain a vibrant culture rooted in land, language, and spirituality. Their daily lives are acts of preservation and innovation, balancing respect for tradition with adaptation to new realities. Later, beneath a sky studded with stars, you contemplate the vast canopy overhead. The same constellations that guided ancient Maya astronomers still watch over the village linking past and present across time and space. You feel privileged to witness this living heritage, a testament to the enduring strength of a people who carry their history not as a burden, but as a source of identity and pride. The Maya world, you realize, is not confined to ruins or relics. It is alive, thriving in the laughter of children, the rhythm of dances, the weaving of cloth, and the planting of seeds. It is a story still being written one breath at a time. As you settle to rest, the sounds of the village lull you into dreams, where ancient maize spirits and modern hopes entwine beneath the endless sky. The night wraps around you like a soft, endless blanket as you find yourself at the heart of the Maya world amidst the towering ruins cloaked in the gentle embrace of jungle vines and the whispering leaves of ancient ceiba trees. This is where the past has never truly left, where the air hums with stories etched into stone and memory, and where the forest itself seems to breathe with the collective heartbeat of generations. You step carefully along a weathered stone path where moss clings thickly between the cracks, and the scent of damp earth mingles with the faint aroma of wildflowers. The ruins rise around you like silent sentinels, pyramid temples, ball courts, and plazas once thrumming with life, now echoing with the soft symphony of cicadas and distant howler monkeys. Each carved face, each glyph worn by time holds a fragment of the Maya story, their victories, their struggles, their enduring spirit. The air is alive with the sense of sacredness that has long defined this land. You pause beneath a sprawling ceiba tree, its roots tangled like the threads of time itself. Local Maya believe this tree is the cosmic axis connecting the heavens, the earth, and the underworld, a living pillar holding together the universe. Its branches stretch skyward, brushing against the stars you gaze at now. You sit quietly, letting the sounds of the jungle wash over you. The chirping of crickets, the gentle rustle of leaves, the occasional distant call of a jaguar. The night sky above is an ocean of glittering light constellations arranged as they have been for millennia. You recall the ancient Maya's reverence for these stars, their calendars and rituals carefully aligned with celestial movements, their understanding of time as cyclical and eternal. A group of Maya elders approaches their footsteps soft but purposeful. They carry offerings, candles, flowers, small bowls filled with maize honey and copal resin. They begin a ceremony, their voices rising in chants that weave together the languages of the past and present. The ritual honors ancestors, the land, and the spirits that watch over them. You watch as the flickering flames illuminate their faces etched with lines of wisdom and resilience. Their chants tell of creation myths of hero twins who ventured into the underworld and triumphed, of maize gods who died and were reborn, of rain spirits who dance in thunder and light. These stories, alive and vivid, are the heartbeat of a people who have endured conquest, loss, and transformation. The ceremony is both a remembrance and a renewal, a living link between the Maya's ancient roots and their vibrant present. It is a reminder that the Maya are not simply the ghosts of history, but a people whose culture continues to grow, adapt, and thrive. You are invited to share in the offering, placing your own small tribute at the base of the ceiba. The act feels profound, connecting you to something timeless and sacred. The night deepens and the ritual moves into a soft silence, broken only by the whisper of wind and the crackle of fire. Reflecting on your journey, you realize how the Maya story is woven with paradoxes, loss and survival, silence and song decay and renewal. Their cities may have fallen silent, but their spirit remains vibrant in the mountains, the forest, the woven cloth, the spoken word, and the lives of their descendants. You remember the jaguar spirits that lurk in shadows and myths? the ceiba trees that hold the cosmos, the sacred calendars that measure not just days, but destinies. You think of the ancestors who danced in plazas, the rebels who fought for land and identity, the women who weave stories into fabric, and the children who carry languages forward. The Maya world is a living tapestry, its threads stretched across time and space intertwined with the earth and sky. You feel honored to have walked these paths, heard these stories, and glimpsed the enduring flame of a civilization that, though transformed, burns still. As the fire dims and the night deepens, you settle beneath the stars, the forest breathing gently around you. The pulse of the past slows, softens, and fades into a calm whisper. I'll be here with another story for you tomorrow night. Now, as the night wraps its gentle arms around you, let your mind soften like the fading embers of a fire long tended. The stories you've heard tonight of kings and rebels, of gods and ancestors, of loss and endurance, settle quietly into your heart. The Maya are more than ruins and relics. They are a living, breathing thread woven into the vast tapestry of human history and spirit. Beneath the endless sky where stars twinkle like ancient eyes watching over the world, the Maya continue to dance their timeless dance, their footsteps echoing softly through the jungle. The ceiba trees stand tall guardians of mysteries whispered on the wind, connecting earth, sky, and soul. As you drift towards sleep, imagine the gentle rustle of leaves, the distant call of a jaguar, the soft cadence of a Maya chant weaving through the night air. Let the rhythms of the past lull you into peaceful dreams where time folds gently, and the stories of old cradle you like a lullaby. Wherever you are, know that you carry a spark of this enduring story within you, a reminder that history is not just what has been, but what lives on in memory culture and the quiet strength of those who remember. Rest well now. Tomorrow holds another tale, another journey, and I'll be here with you to tell it. Sweet dreams.